Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of HSP TV. I am your host, Barbara, and today I am joined by the beautiful Tami LoPresti, and she is a numerologist. And today we are going to talk about what numerology can tell you about yourself, your relationships, and your life experiences. I've been really looking forward to today's talk because although I know a little bit about numerology, I am definitely not an expert. So I would love to dive into this topic, and let me first welcome you to the show today, Tami. It's a pleasure having you.
It's great to be here.
So for the people that are watching and listening that have even less knowledge than I have, maybe it's a good thing to start at what is numerology.
Okay, so the very basic is that numerology is the study of numbers and how they apply to your life. Sorry, the reason why we take a look at your birth chart, it's just your birthday put into a chart form. The reason why we look at it is because that is the code to the map that you made before you came here into this incarnation. So numerology is based on the idea that we reincarnate many times. And the reason that we do that is because we're trying to learn what it is to be human. And so to do that, we're taking all different aspects of this one chart, like we're living out all the different numbers in different lifetimes, so that we can understand all the different ways that it is to be human, you know?
Wow, I love that.
Yeah.
But it sounds then to the untrained ear sort of similar to astrology, because that also works with your birth chart and tells you about your previous lives and what you have to learn as a human. Is that too simply thought, or is it correct?
No, they work together really well. I don't know anything about astrology, but I do know that they are meant to work together. They definitely complement each other. And I would say that astrology is probably the extension of numerology, or vice versa. You know,
Awesome.
They're definitely one and the same.
I immediately have a topic for another episode where I want someone who is an expert in both of them to shed a bit more light on the difference of them.
I would love that too.
Right? Because
yeah,
I'm using human design, and I know that human design is based on astrology, but also the Kabbalah, the I Ching, epigenetics, and a lot of other sciences. So it combines a lot of things and also brings you your birth chart. But for numerology, I think you already said a little bit about it. Your chart, your birth chart, is based on your birth date, then, and you convert that to numbers.
Yes. So I take your birthday and I just put all the numbers into the chart. There's like I can show you a chart if that helps.
Cool.
So I take a blank chart and then I just add your numbers to that chart. This is one that has like some of them are blank, some of them are done. But basically each number goes into a different part of the chart, you know. And then you add them all up on the side, and those are all your life purpose numbers and why you're here. So,
awesome.
So basically, I don't practice numerology the way that I've seen it other places. In my practice, I don't know where mine actually comes from. It's been passed down in my family. And I don't have a book to study more of it or anything. I actually channel to get more information. But with ours, we take your birthday and we take every one of those numbers and we tell you what those numbers mean individually. And then we also tell you what those numbers mean in combination. And then we tell you what your life path is and what you're trying to do. You know, like there's not necessarily a life path number in mine. There is like a completion number that's like the goal for your lifetime. And then there's mini goals for your lifetime. So it's a little bit complicated, but it's really not that complicated either, you know.
No, especially when you know what you're doing.
Yes. And when I look at a chart, I don't see how old you are. I don't really see anything. I actually feel like I feel into who you are as a person. Your numbers speak to me. They tell me a story and I can feel you in those. I can feel the essence of you in the the whole of those, I guess,
Mhm.
and I actually, when I'm doing a reading, I end up kind of connecting with your energy to a point where I can see the world through your eyes in a way. I can understand how these numbers affect you, and I can understand how you have taken the world, so I
Mhm.
can tell you how you're operating and how, I can kind of guide you to where your obstacles are and how to just deal with them better,
Okay.
that's kind of what I do during my readings a lot, and I also channel. Um, Part of numerology that I didn't know when I first learned was that you open yourself to be a channel, and you start receiving information as you're doing it. And I didn't know what that was at first, and it really scared me because my mom's the one who taught me. She never prepared me for that. She didn't really tell me that that happens. Maybe she didn't know that it would happen to me too. But I started giving readings, and I started saying things that I wasn't thinking, and I started saying things that didn't make sense to me. And then I would stop myself because it scared me, because I didn't know what was happening,
Mhm.
and so for a while I stopped doing readings because I didn't understand what was happening. And
Mhm.
then I realized that everything I was saying was positive, and everything that I was telling someone was directly what they needed to hear. And then I was starting to notice that, like, a lot of people were telling me that I was saying things that were exact sentences that people had said to them recently, and that I was saying things that they exactly needed to know and hear. And I was
Mhm.
like, oh, okay, so there's something to this. And then I understood. And now I know that, I mean, now it's been years and years, but now I know that the more I allow that, the more comes through,
Mhm.
and I just simply allow whatever comes through me to come through. I don't try to control it or question it or anything. And it's always the right thing,
Mhm.
so I tell you why you're here, what your plans are for this lifetime, what your strengths are, what your obstacles are. And then I also tell you anything that comes through, you know, things like that. So
I love that.
yeah,
But
yeah.
how can a number tell me what I am meant to do here, or with whom I should be in a relationship, for instance? How does that
Well,
work?
um, well, I mean, there's like short answer, and then there's like a really long answer. I'll try to tell you the short answer. Everything in our world is based on math and science.
Mhm.
Like
Yes.
like everything is an equation. We are an equation, and we run on electricity and energy,
Mhm.
and the numbers the numbers signify the vibration that we are vibrating at. So,
Mhm.
like, I'm trying really hard not to get into it, but like, the idea that, like, you're vibrating as a 4 mixed with a 3 and a 1, that vibration becomes you, or you become that vibration, because I think we're actually matching the numbers more than the numbers are matching us.
Mhm.
Um, but it just comes down to, like, being able to connect to the vibration of what human is, like how we are vibrating. And I think that I have tapped into that feeling,
Mhm.
and that's what it is. And you have tapped into that feeling by becoming human, like, you became human, you decided, I'm going to do all these things, and to accomplish all of these things, I'm going to have to vibrate at where these numbers vibrate at. So this is like the code to what you decided to accomplish in this life,
Mhm.
And what's fascinating to me, that just started happening in the last year or two, I just started doing whole family charts. Like I sit down with people for 1 week at a time, like 1 hour at a time once a week, and we will do, like, the person and their spouse, and then their kids, and then their parents, and then their sister and brother, and whoever's in their immediate world. And when you look at all of them on a chart in front of you, everyone has the same patterns. Like, everyone has the same vibration going on, that they're all working on the same. It to me, it feels like a circle. Okay, like your
Mhm.
immediate circle is your family and friends. Okay, and you all attract each other because you vibrate the same. And
But that's
so,
logical because the law of attraction says like attracts like, right? So the
yes,
same type
yes,
of vibration or the same type of energy attracts more of the same. So that's in line with what
yes,
you're telling, right?
yes, exactly. Well, your family is fascinating because you will have, like, say you have a 5 and a 7, okay? Well, your 5 and a 7, you'll be working on it with a 6, and the 6 will like give you one experience. And then your mom will have a 5 and a 7 and a 1, and your dad will have a 5 and a 7 and a 9, you know, and like you're all working on like a different part of the same experience. And so that's why like your mom will trigger you in a way that other people can't, you know, and like
Mhm.
your sister will like help you and compliment you in certain ways, but then hurt you in other ways. And like all these people are all working on the exact same thing, just a different part of it, you know, and you're kind of like helping each other and hurting each other, and you signed up for that, you know, and I don't know, it's the most fascinating thing I've ever seen. You
Yeah,
know.
I can imagine because
Um,
what immediately comes to mind for me is a lot of people say you're a soul having a human experience and you choose your family, you choose your
yeah,
father, your mother, your brother, your sisters. So would that choice then
yes,
be based on these numbers that you're really more attracted
yeah,
to a certain vibration?
yes. So this to me, for me, this unlocked a whole bunch of questions that I've always had. Like, I've always known that I chose my mom and dad and that I chose my children. I've always had that feeling. I've never known for sure, but I've always had that feeling, and I've always heard that different places. But you know, my parents are very difficult, so I always thought, why would I choose these people? Like,
I
why
thought
would I choose people that totally drive me insane but love me at the same time, you know?
exactly.
But why would I choose this? When I started to see the patterns and how they work, I understood immediately why and how we do this. Like, I understood that there's so much more of a plan than not a plan. Like, I used to always think, oh, well, yeah, we have free will. So everything's just like flowy. Everything's like, it could just go any way. Yeah,
Yeah.
it can go anyway because you do have free will. But the main plan is absolutely the plan. And it is well planned out. And it is like, you're all working on the same mission. I don't know. It blows my mind because like I never knew this before. Okay. And
Mhm.
I'm just unlocking things that I've never known. And the idea that your parents are exactly who you need them to be, and your kids are exactly who you need them to be, and vice versa. You are who they all need you to be. You guys like all work exactly together the way that you're supposed to, so that all of you learn the exact lessons you're here to learn. You know,
Mhm.
like you might say, well, why do I attract narcissists that remind me of my mom? Does every guy have the same pattern? It's
Yes.
because until you're willing to look at the pattern that you will not face with your mother, this man will come and show you it again, and this man will come and show you it again, and it will just keep happening until you finally decide one day, I am just going to look this in the eye and I'm going to face it, you know, and then you will learn that lesson, and then you won't attract those people anymore. You will attract somebody that's working on a different part of your chart, you know. It's
Ah.
just because like as you learn all the things that you're here to learn, as you conquer all your obstacles, I should say, you raise your vibration to a different part of your chart. You know, like there's a
Mhm.
difference between acting in, like yesterday I was talking about the 2 in a video. There's a difference between acting in the negative energy of the 2 and then finally learning the positive energy of the 2. You know, like
Mhm.
the negative energy would be you're closed off, you're fearful, you're scared to allow anyone inside your heart.
Mhm.
The positive aspect is you radiate love. You're like a light beam of love, you know, and you give love to the whole planet, you know.
Mhm.
But until you learn how to trust and open your heart, you're going to be acting from the scared part of that too, you know,
Yes.
to overcome it, you know, so your vibration will change. And as your vibration changes, then those parts of those numbers will start attracting people that are working on the different parts of the numbers, you know. And is that complicated? I'm sorry.
No, but I recognize it from the gene keys. In the gene keys,
Yeah.
there are 64 keys that people can have, which are the same as the gates in human design, for people who know human design better.
Okay.
And they talk about the shadow frequency, the gift, and then the city, which is the highest possible within the same frequency. And the gift is the thing that transports you from the shadow to the city. And the
Okay.
shadow could be entropy, for instance, and then it could feel like you're numb and that you constantly hit a wall in your life, while the city of that same key is beauty. And then the gift that transports you from numbness to beauty is freshness, which means something like creativity. So it means when you are in the shadow side of that key, you're experiencing a lot of negative things and downsides. But as soon as you tap into your natural creativity and you start looking at these patterns in your life and how they've shown up, and you start transmuting them using your creativity, then you can go towards the highest possible, which is true beauty.
Yeah.
And it sounds very similar to that.
Very similar. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. It's fascinating to me how all of the different modalities seem to say the same things in different ways. You know,
Yes.
I have noticed, like, I've noticed that life comes down to just a few things, you know, trusting yourself, trusting others, learning that things come from the inside rather than from the outside. Just being fully authentic. The more you allow yourself to have and be and act from who you really are, the more your life just works, you know, and the less outside influence you allow in, like all the negativity and all of the, you know, like the hurt feelings from childhood and things like that, the less you do that, the more you become who you are. And the more you become who you are, the more you attract all the people that complement that, you know.
Yes.
And
Exactly.
I just, so many things I wish I would have learned when I was young, you know, like when I was really young. I wish I would have known how to step into myself when I was young and just treat people better and show up better in life, you know, and trust things, you know, like, I don't know, but that's what I'm learning as I go. Like the more readings I do and the more people I work with, everything kind of comes down to like the same things. And
I agree with you. Yeah. It's
amazing.
also comforting, I find, that these modalities, that they touch each other in this way, because it means that it doesn't really matter which modality you end up with, the one that resonates with you the most, because they all lead you back to answers. And that's what I found, for instance, in my human design in combination with my gene key, a lot of answers to who I am and why I've been experiencing the things that I've been experiencing, and why I've been running into the same types of situations over and over again, and where that comes from, and how to take charge of that, and how to improve my life and steer myself towards the highest possibility that is possible for me in life. And that gives me a certain feeling of well, not completely control, but at least understanding, and that you're not just a plaything for the universe, but there's actually a plan behind it.
Yes. So I have trouble being told what to do. I've always had trouble, you know, being told what to do or how to do it. You know, I definitely live in that energy. So I always had trouble with the idea that I'm stuck here. This is where I have to be, someone says, and then I'm going to get judged, and all these like ideas and concepts that I learned when I was little, they never made sense to me. And I always thought, like, I always felt trapped by that feeling, by that thought, you know. And I used to think that there was like this God in the sky that was a judge, and I was going to go to this courtroom and he was going to say, well, you did bad and you're going to hell and all this stuff, you know. And then in my early 20s, I had a near-death experience, and I learned during that, because an angel came to me and told me that it was all up to me. Like that I was in this life because I chose to be in this life, and I could either leave this life or I could return to it. And it didn't make any difference at all. She said, everyone will be okay. You'll be fine. You'll never have pain. Like, you won't have pain again unless you return. And she said, you can go or you can stay. And that was the main thing that happened during the near-death experience, was literally just me making that choice. I made that choice to come back because I had a baby at the time. She was like 8 months old, and I couldn't leave, or she was 10 months old and I couldn't leave her. But the thing is, I thought before that I was trapped here, that someone was holding me against my will, and I felt like screaming from the inside out all the time. I felt like I was trapped and I couldn't get out of here. And I even tried to commit suicide a few times in my life,
Yeah,
and then after that, sorry, what did you say?
Oh, no, I said I recognize that. I've had the same types of experiences. So yeah, I understand.
Yeah. Well, then after that, I realized I am the only one holding me here. And if I'm the only one holding me here, then I'm not going to live like this at all. Like, I'm not going to be upset. I'm not going to have experiences with people that I can't stand. I'm not going to work jobs I hate or live in places I don't like. I'm not going to do all the things that I was doing because I thought that I was a victim to something,
Yes, or I have to do that because it's expected of me.
Yes. I stopped living by that feeling, and I started living by the idea that I am the one who decided this, and I am the one who gets to keep deciding this, and I have this belief now. I don't know if it's like true or not, but I have this belief that it is up to me, and that if I decided to leave again, I could. Like, I have this feeling that it really is up to me all the way. And when I learned that, and I fully stepped into that, and I understood that, my life became my own, and my life became this life that, like, I get to choose and I get to create, and then it became something that I love.
I can imagine. Yeah. And these insights you got from your numerology chart then?
I got that was from a near-death experience. And then I learned numerology about, I would say, 7 years later, but my mom practiced it all of my life. So my mom did readings all of my life. She never charged for them or did it professionally. But she studied it when I was a baby. And then she's kind of secretive about where she learned it and how she learned it. And me and my sister have some ideas that it may have come from a cult, but we don't know, but she swears that's not true, but we'll see, who knows. I don't actually know where it comes from, but I do know that, like, I was raised with spirituality, so that helped my life a lot.
Because to get back to what you said previously, I find that children are being taught not enough in school. I wish they would teach things like this in school, how to see yourself for who you are, how to love yourself for who you are, how to accept yourself for who you are, how to get to know your own user manual in detail so that you can be free to really be yourself instead of molding yourself towards other people's expectations or the expectations of society, family systems, whatever expectations might be out there that pressure a lot of people into turning themselves into someone they're actually not.
And I think we spend one half of our life kind of being programmed into what we should be, and then I think we spend the other half of our life deprogramming, and learning who we really are, and it would be great if we could start out just being who we are, and I think kids are having better experiences these days than we did,
Well, we start out being who we are as children up until the age of 4, at least here in the Netherlands. We are who we are. We have our natural gifts. We're very open. We're very intuitive. We're very in touch. We have imaginary friends. We have imaginary tea parties. We drink imaginary tea, and it all makes sense, right? But in my opinion, it goes wrong the moment we go into school, because school to me is like some sort of factory where everybody goes across the same conveyor belt, and basically the same type of human pops out at the end. And we're being molded into roughly the same type of person with the same type of beliefs and expectations. It's all get a good education so you can get a good job, so that you can find a spouse, so that you can get married, then you can have buy a house, have children, get pets, and then die at old age while your children are taking care of you, basically, kind of life. And when we hit school, a lot of children are being, well, air quote, punished for being themselves. And they say, don't be silly when you're saying, oh, Max, my imaginary friend, is also here to learn today. Oh, no, they don't exist. So don't be so silly. And stuff like that. And that's how we unlearn being ourselves. And then we inevitably walk into a wall of some kind. For me, that was a massive burnout. And then we need to relearn who we always were, but just had lost sight of.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, I saw something amazing. My sister she has 2 sons, and my nephews are, I don't know, they're teenagers now, but when my oldest nephew went into kindergarten, him and another little girl were going to school every day, and they were drawing these maps of how to escape the school and how to walk home. Like they were paying attention to when their moms were driving them in the morning, because they lived in the same neighborhood. And they were drawing a map on how to walk home, because they were going to escape the school and they were going to get home, and that's all that they wanted, and that's all they worked on for half of the year. And this child went from someone who was very creative to someone who is very shy and timid and wouldn't talk. And he got very inside of himself when he went to school. He wasn't allowed to express himself anymore.
No, and that's the only way he could escape, right? By escaping within.
Well, so when my sister and her friend saw these escape maps and heard about their plans, because the kids finally told them the plan, they both made the decision to homeschool after that. And I think they both made the best decision of their life, Those kids completely turned around. Like all of that shy, introverted stuff turned around within months, and he became this beautiful child with this creative imagination. And he came into himself, and he got to be himself always now, and I could not believe the transformation. And I used to be against homeschool because I used to think, that kids needed to socialize and they needed that experience and all that. But it's really not that great for them. Like now that I see the difference, like I think I would have made different choices with my children if I would have seen that sooner.
But at least in the States you have that choice, right? Here in the Netherlands, children can only go to school, and it's mandatory, and you cannot keep them home. So the only option is school, to put them into the factory. There is no homeschooling or any type of other option.
Wow. Yeah, that's very difficult then.
Exactly. Wow. And we're probably not the only country. I'm not familiar with the schooling systems of most other countries, but I'm pretty sure that most of Europe has a mandatory school attendance, because we're one Europe now. So those rules are in general apply to all the countries that are a part of the European nation. So homeschooling was never an option here. And although I understand what you're saying, I think indeed children benefit from having interactions with other children, but that doesn't necessarily needs to be in school, right? They can also do sports or other hobbies where they get into contact with children and learn how to share and other things that might be beneficial when sharing stuff with other children.
Well, the other thing is that the homeschool kids actually meet all the time, and they're not like they meet all the time to do socialization, you know, but they're not confined to the ages that they are. So like the only time that you are around only your age is in school. The only time you're segregated into age groups. So like that's actually not even normal. My sister was explaining that to me, and it blew my mind because I had never even questioned it. No. I always thought, oh, you're supposed to stay in your age range, even with dating and all of that. I always thought, well, you only date within 5 years, you know, and you only whatever, you only hang out with people that are within 5 years of your age. But that's not true. In real life, you work with people of all ages and you live with people of all ages. And that just makes sense. School is the only place that we do that. So,
I remember my boyfriend asking me, why are most of your friends so much older than you are? It's because I don't see age. I see a person, and especially a person that respects me as a person. And in general, older people tend to have more life wisdom. I can express them better, but I also have a lot of younger friends. For me, age doesn't matter. It's about the person and how you connect with each other. Age is just a number. But getting back to numbers, the only thing that I knew about was your life path number. That is part of numerology, right? But how do you get to the different numbers then?
So I don't know how, like, I don't know about the life path numbers. Like people ask me that all the time. They say, I'm a number 5 or I'm a number 3 or whatever. I don't practice that way. So I don't really understand what that means. And I can tell you what those specific numbers mean to me, but they don't actually always mean the same thing to other people in their practice. But what I can say is that if you take all of your numbers and you reduce them to just one number, that would not tell you all of who you are. You know, like that would only tell you one aspect of who you are. And the reason why I like the way that I practice better than what I've heard, I don't really know about the other practices. I just know that I could never say that you are just one number, you are just one thing, you know. I like this because you literally look at every part of who somebody is and what makes them up, what makes up who you are, you know, and you look at like the good and the bad and the superpowers. Like I love talking about the gifts that you brought with you, and then you have like obstacles that you put there to get in your way, and they're always in direct opposition with each other, you know. So you'll have something in the top of your chart that's like a superpower that says you're so amazing because, and then you'll have something in the bottom that says you're a giant piece of crap. You know, and so you will struggle with that your whole life, and you will win that struggle usually. You know, most people win that struggle, but the struggle is always proving to yourself that you really are all the great things that you are. You know, you really are all the great things that other people see in you. You know, it's really easy to give a compliment. It's usually really hard to take one.
Yes,
you know?
For a lot of people, yes.
Yeah, well, as you get older, you learn to take compliments because you understand that you are those things. You are this amazing person that other people see. But when you're young, you're busy trying to fit into boxes that you don't fit in. And you're busy trying to say, no, I'm not, no, I'm not, no, I'm not. But then like you learn, and that's the whole thing, is like, that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to step fully into those gifts and live them. But the great thing about the obstacles is that like having all of these obstacles creates all these challenges in your life that you have to learn how to fix. So like that is why you get the full experience of your gifts, because you see all the different aspects of how they've been challenged and you've overcome them. and that's how you actually obtain all those gifts,
Exactly.
Um,
And how many numbers do you get to, or does that vary per person?
It varies a little bit, like some people have more numbers than others. But there's generally like 5 or 6 numbers, and then the completion numbers,
Mhm. And how
Um,
do you determine them, and what do they mean?
so well, I've been doing videos once a week on each number so that people know like the aspects of each number. But I do have a cheat sheet on my I have a blog post with a cheat sheet of just like, because I talk about repeating numbers that people see, like angel numbers and things like that. Um,
Yes,
so
definitely
I have
something I want to get into.
yes. So I have a cheat sheet on how to decipher the numbers that you're seeing, So basically, and I can run through these really fast. So like a 1 means direction. It always means direction. It always means the plan or the direction ahead,
Mhm.
The 2 is your heart chakra. So it's always about love, emotions, feelings, The 3 is balance. It's always finding balance or a lack of balance, like it either is your balance or you're trying to find balance.
Mhm.
The 4 is always many opportunities. It's always like things in every direction. The 5 is always family. The 6 is creativity and the arts and things like that. The 7 is wisdom. The 7 should always be wisdom. The 8 is adventure. The 8 can also signify trouble. So the 8 is adventure, but it can also, depending on how it shows up, it can signify trouble.
Mhm.
And then the 9 is the 9 is the third eye chakra. So it's like intuition, and it's like seeing ahead, it's like the vision of what the future is going to be. So say you had a number that's showing up, like not everyone has just 1111 or 222 or whatever. You see those, but a lot of people have a specific number that they see all the time that's not just a series of numbers,
No, it
like
can be 2023 or
yeah,
2011 or
yeah.
whatever combination. Yeah.
And you can't really just kind of look that up. I mean, I guess you can, but I don't know if they're all there, So for me, I started seeing 420 like a few years ago. I just saw 420 everywhere. I don't smoke weed. That number does not mean anything to me, So like I kept seeing that number, and I would say, this is so weird because I do not resonate with this number normally, like
Mhm.
other people would see it and be like, oh wow, cool. I don't resonate with it. So I kept seeing it and seeing it and seeing it all the time. And then my friend, who I do numerology with all the time, I was dissecting his numbers all the time. He said, well, what does it mean? And I was like,
Yeah.
I don't know. And he said, hello, numerologist, what does it mean? And I said, oh, yeah, I guess I should look at what it means. So I was like, okay, so the 4 is many directions. The 2 is your heart or love, so there's many directions to love. And at the time I was single and I wasn't sure like if I wanted to be with someone or not, but I I ultimately always want to be with someone. And I think it was trying to tell me that someone's out there, that there's many ways to find someone, there's many ways to go down this path. And then as soon as I figured that out, a year later, I started seeing 421 instead of 420. So I
Mhm.
was like, okay, so now what does that mean? Now I automatically know to look. So many directions to love, and now you're on the path to it, because the 1 is the straight ahead. So I'm like, oh, okay, so that makes sense, and then someone came to me and he said, I see 338 everywhere, and I was like, okay, what does that mean? And he's like, well, I'm a construction worker, 3 and 3/8 comes up all the time, but I see it on the clock. I see it everywhere I look. He's like, what could that mean? And I was like, well, I mean, let's look at it, and so we talked about how 3 is balance. And if you're going to have 2 3s right in a row, it's going to be like you want balance, you're seeking balance, you know, and then the 8 is like adventure. But the 8 also has like this negative aspect to it, you know, like it has both. It could mean adventure, but I think if you're seeing it all throughout your life and you're seeing it all the time, I think it's more like it's trying to tell you you're going to have obstacles. That's what it feels like to me. It's like,
Or you might have trouble with your balance.
yes, like I think that it's really screaming that he needs to always find his balance, and that even when there's trouble, to know that balance is there, you know, to trust, you know. And so like we talked it through and he said that makes exact sense. Like that makes sense to me, you know. And that's kind of what I do with people. Like when they come to me and they say, I'm seeing repeating numbers, I'm like, well, let's dissect this. Let's talk about it. And let's talk about what it means to you. You know, like you can use that cheat sheet and you can come up with what you think it means, you know. But you really should feel into it. And you should say, okay, so if my guides were trying to tell me something, if there's this spirit team that is working with me all the time, trying to desperately help me see the way, okay, what would they want to tell me? What would make sense for my life? You know, like if I'm on this mission for love, of course they're going to tell me love is available. They're not going to tell me it's not, you know. They're not going to tell me, oh yeah, you've met all the people you're going to meet, you're done. You know, they want to give you some kind of assurance that life is okay, that life is working, and that you can trust things, you know. And I think that our guides are always trying to give us signs. I think we just don't always see them. And
No.
I think the repeating numbers really help, because they can just keep putting them in front of us all over the place, you know. And if you see something all over the place all the time, you start realizing it's not a coincidence. And when you start recognizing it as not a coincidence, then you'll start getting more signs, you know, that
I'm very happy that you're talking about this, because the most commonly known repeating numbers are what they call the angel numbers, 1111 or 111, 1111, 4 times 1, and for all the numbers. So they call those the angel numbers. And there's a lot written about the angel numbers, but I know also, because I've been asked, that there are a lot of people who do not see the angel numbers. They don't see these double ones or 3 3s or 4 4s or whatever appear. And then you could come to the conclusion that you're not on the right path, or that you're not doing the right thing, because in general they tend to say you're following your soul path, your life destiny, when you're seeing the angel numbers pop up. But what you're actually sharing is that there are a lot of other types of repeating numbers that don't have to be an angel number, that still give you a clue about where to go or where you are now.
Yes. Well, and it's not always numbers either. I mean,
No.
your guides
Animals.
your guides will communicate with you in any way that they can find communication, because they're here to work with you. They're here to guide you. They're here to help you. Like they're behind the scenes gathering all the things that you want and giving them to you, like putting them in your path. You know, they're making all the connections work that will teach you all your lessons and take you all the places you want to go. So sometimes it'll be numbers, but if you're not somebody that's going to recognize those numbers, then maybe it's going to be birds swooping down in front of you. Maybe it's going to be coins on the ground, or rocks, or
feathers.
You know, it can be all kinds of things. It can be all of those things as well. You know, what I always tell people is, like, if you see a repeating number, okay, or you see a sign, it can be any sign, but I usually say it about numbers because people ask me about numbers. But if you see a repeating number, try to remember what you were thinking about, or what questions you had right before that happened. Like right before that happened, what were you thinking in your head? You may not remember. So just start paying attention. Start noticing, what are you thinking about when that happens? That is the answer to it. And if it's not numbers that you're seeing, if it's butterflies, if it's birds, if it's rocks, or whatever you see that is your symbol from it's 4:21 on my clock right now. Isn't that funny?
Very.
Whatever you see that is your sign, that you recognize as your sign from your guides, and there could be many, but whatever it is, notice what you're thinking about at that time and assume that that is a direct answer to it. So when you see a bird fly down in front of you, what do you immediately think? You know, what are you thinking? Is it, you know, scary? Is it happy? Is it whatever? You know, that's what your guide's trying to tell you. And the more that you recognize that this is actual communication between you and your guides, this is how you speak, this is the language, then you will be guided and you will start following guidance better. And, you know, your life will work better. You know?
Yes, you're absolutely right. I've had a robin literally on my path right in front of me, and then it flew up and then landed about 3 paces ahead. And then when I got close, 3 paces ahead, and it was really like it was guiding me on my way. I've a very spiritual connection to dragonflies. At one point, I had 8 of them sitting on top of my body, which I found incredibly special. So those are signs you can watch out for. But I also know that my guides or the universe talk to me through song. Whenever I'm worrying about something, all of a sudden I would hear, "Don't you worry about a thing."
Yes.
And oh,
me too.
check.
Yeah.
So there are many different.
I was having a struggle with you know, like with a relationship, and I woke up and this song was playing in my head that I hadn't heard in years. It was "Love Is on the Way." And I was like, why am I singing this song? And then I was like, oh, this must be a sign. This just must be my guide saying, don't worry, you're fine. Things are good. You know?
Exactly. Yes.
But yeah, so I have the same thing. And on the anniversary of my best friend's death, I go to a park every year. I go to this waterfall, and this one year I took a walk, and this bird just kept landing in front of me and my dog. And I had my dog with me, who is not happy about birds. You know, like he does not want the birds to be near us. He doesn't want anyone being near me. But we're walking through this whole thing, probably like a mile, all the way down and all the way back. And this bird just swooped down and landed in front of us so many times that it was undeniable. And then we went and sat at the waterfall. It landed in the water. And well, first it landed on the waterfall, like on the ledge. And then it swooped down to the water, and it was directly across from us. And then it started walking toward us. And that's when my dog went crazy. But I was like, this is undeniable. This is her telling me that she knows I'm here. You know, this is communication, you know, and we just I don't know why we don't all know it. You know, like why.
Again, we're not taught this in school. We are not taught to trust our intuition. We are not taught anything about being a spirit, having a human existence, and we're not taught about angels or spirit guides or signs or communication ways of your helpers, or even that you have helpers, right? A lot of these things we only learn once we start to develop an interest in it and start looking for the information ourselves. It's really something that you need to start looking for, or sometimes it unexpectedly finds you in the form of a person or a book sometimes when you need it the most. But it's not something, or at least not maybe for you because your mom was already very spiritual, but I think for a lot of people whose parents are definitely not spiritual or have nothing with spirituality, they don't learn this because our parents don't know even. So how can you teach your child something that you're not aware of yourself?
That's true. That is true. Yeah. I can't even imagine. I can't imagine not growing up with it. So I was very lucky, I feel.
Yeah, because my parents were very straightforward. What you see is what you get, and don't make anything too fancy because you're already good the way you are. So don't pretend. And it was all about hard work. And if you were not successful, you needed to work a lot harder until you had your success. And that was the way they've been raised. So nothing with universe, spirit, God, intuition, or any of those things.
No. Interesting. It's interesting.
Yes. And in that way, you can see how big of an influence your family is on you. Your parents are on you, but you also have on your children. And we know that as a child having a parent experience, we have parents and we experience them in a certain way, and we're either happy or not happy, or moving back and forth, or somewhere in between. There are various options for it. But especially when you've had parents that you were not happy with, then we vow to ourselves, I'm not going to repeat these mistakes with my children. But sometimes then you can go completely the opposite way, and that also damages your children. And then your children think, I'm never going to do what my parents did with me, and maybe revert back to grandfather's behavior.
Me and my daughters talk about that, how it goes in phases in generations, where one generation says, I'm going to do everything like my parents. And then the next generation says, I'm not going to do anything like my parents, you know, and we kind of go back and forth, you know. I took 3 things from my childhood. Like when I decided what I was going to do with my daughters, because I was a single mom of 3 daughters, I said, I want them to love themselves. It's really, really, really important to me that they love themselves, because I was taught not to love myself, you know?
Yes.
So from the time they were born, every day of their life, when they were little anyway, I took them in front of the mirror and I would say, look how beautiful you are. Look at your little fingers and your little toes, and look at how pretty you are. And I would just say things like that. And they, all 3 of them, really got a good self-worth, you know, self-esteem type feeling, you know.
I love that.
They still have as adults, you know. My next thing was I wouldn't allow them to wear makeup until they were 16, because I can't go without makeup. And I can't see my face. I mean, I can, I'm getting better, but it's like, I don't like myself without makeup. And I thought if they didn't start so young, they would see how beautiful they are. And it worked. All 3 of them, they wear it or they don't. And they barely ever wear it, you know, and they're all really beautiful, you know. And
I love that.
And then the third thing was I wanted them to be who they are. I wanted them to make their own choices, and that not to be wrong. You know, like I wanted them to go to college, but I wanted them to do it if they wanted to do it. Like that's the only requirement. I said, I would really like you to pick a career. I would really like you to go to college, but none of them finished college. You know, like they went, but they didn't finish. And one of my daughters went pretty far and almost became a doctor. Like she was starting her next part to become a doctor. And she ended up quitting. And she said to me very recently, because now she's on a new path, she said, are you disappointed in me? And I said, you literally have to breathe for me to not be disappointed in you. That's it. Like you breathe, I love you completely. I don't care what you do. I don't care what you don't do. Just please do what makes you happy. Whatever that is, you know, I don't care what that is. As long as you're not hurting anyone, just be happy. I could never be disappointed, you know, like it's not even up to me, you know, like it's your life. You're going to live it. I had
but this is a very, very important message that you're giving your children, because I think that that's where a lot of things already go wrong. I was also not taught to love myself, because my mother doesn't even love herself. And my mother has trouble expressing love to other people also. So that's a huge burden. But if you learn to see yourself as beautiful the way you are, perfect the way you are, lovable the way you are, worthy the way you are, and feel that deep in your core, then you already have miles ahead of most people when it comes to personal development, and also finding the career or the things that really suit who you are, and that in turn sort of guarantees that you're doing something that fulfills you on a soul level, that gives you absolute joy and energy, and that you could do until you're very, very old and wrinkly, and then maybe still don't want to give up, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
I love
and
that.
that's the goal. I'm not saying I haven't screwed them up in lots of ways, because that's what happens. But they are such beautiful souls, and they
Mhm,
are, all three of them are pursuing what they love,
mhm,
and they feel free to do that. And that's all I ever wanted. I just wanted them to love themselves and to love their life. And
mhm.
I feel like we're there, like I
Yeah,
feel like that's where we got to, which is all
I
I
love
ever,
it.
you
Yeah,
know. So
beautiful.
yeah.
Yeah,
Anyway,
I
and
love
I
it.
love what I do. Like I really honestly love my work. I get really excited all the time, and I say I can't believe I do what I love, like
Mhm,
I'm so happy that I finally found what it is that is perfect for me.
mhm. Yes.
I feel like it took me forever, but I did it.
Well, I get what you're saying, because I discovered through human design and the gene keys that I am a manifesting generator, and I already knew I was a multi-potentialite, but I never knew that before. But that really matches each other. So that means that I need to follow my passion, and at one moment I want to do this, and I'm completely happy in this, and then something else comes
Yes.
along, and I think, oh, but that's also awesome.
Yes.
And some people call it shiny object syndrome. But for a
Yes.
person like me, it's not a shiny object syndrome. It's really following my heart and following my passion and
Yeah.
following where I am called at. So that means in my case, I have a very extensive toolkit with
Yes.
a ton of tools, all different types
Yes.
of tools. And that
Yes.
makes me able to shift from one methodology to another methodology in order to actually find the thing that works really well for my clients and not be
Yes.
stuck in one thing. But for a
Yes.
big part of my life, I've been made to feel like there was something wrong with me, because you need to do one thing, and you need to choose one thing, and you need to really
Yeah.
love one thing and be really good at one thing. And
Yeah.
if that is your thing, like for you, then that's perfect, right? Because
Yes.
if you are happy in one thing and that's really your thing, and you can expand in it and it gives you soul satisfaction,
Yes.
then perfect.
Yes.
But there are people like me who find fulfillment or need fulfillment from many different sources in order for them to feel the same level as you do
Yes.
with your one thing. And
Well, yeah, what's funny is I'm a manifesting generator as well.
huh,
And for me, it took me my whole life to settle on one thing. Like it has taken me this
very
long to
cool.
say what it really was my one business coach said to me maybe a year ago or 2 years ago. She said, what would you do if you weren't getting paid? And I said, oh, easy, numerology,
Hmm.
because I do it unpaid all the time. I don't care. I do
Hmm.
it everywhere I go. And then she said, well, what would you do if you were sick? I said, oh, easy, numerology. I do it when I'm sick. And then she said, well, what would you do if you couldn't do anything else? Numerology, and it was so easy when someone
Interesting.
outside of me asked, because if you would have asked me what do I do, I'm certified in all kinds of things.
Hmm.
I've ran down all the paths, not all of them, but I've ran down lots of paths. And I've thought, I just can't settle on one thing. I just can't
No.
be one thing. I can't do one thing. And at the time, I was a life coach, I was a numerologist, and I was running a crystal business. And I was thinking about more businesses. I have business plans like a pile high of all the
Hmm.
things I want to do.
I
Um,
recognize that.
yes. And I mean, I have the whole plan laid out, everything. And then she said that, and I was like, you're right. That's what I fall back on no matter what.
Hmm.
That's what I do no matter what. That is who me is. That is my core. That
Yeah.
is how I operate. And so she said, well, now how can you take that and make that your one thing? How can you combine the things that you love into that one thing somehow? And I
Hmm.
said, well, crystals go right along with it. So selling crystals is fine. So I do that too. Um, Even though it is kind of a monster on its own, it's like a full business itself. I
Yeah.
do both. But then the life coaching, I was never going to give up life coaching. I'm a born natural life coach. Like I am just really good at helping people. So she said, well, can you combine it? And I was like, well, yeah. So now I realized I'm a relationship coach because all I help people with is relationships, all different kinds of relationships. And then I realized combining life coaching with numerology is fabulous. Like it really, really changes lives. And then I'm doing all of the things that I love. And what I did was I split it up into the 4 quarters of the year because I can't do just one thing all the time. I can't handle that as a manifesting generator.
Exactly.
So I work on love for 3 months. I work on career for 3 months. I work on family for 3 months, and I work on your relationship with you for 3 months. So like every 3 months, I have a launch period of that type of numerology, and then all year I'm promoting my readings and things like that, and then I'm doing my crystal business. So like I'm always doing all these things, but I found a way to make all these things fit me instead of me always trying to fit into all these boxes that don't make sense and being scattered with my energy. I took all of my things and I made them into one and then separated them into sections. And
I recognize
that is what finally worked. That's
what I'm doing as well. I take a little bit from everything that I can do, and I've incorporated them into one method that works for my clients. That's my method, where I combine everything that I love doing, and I recognize that it needs to shift regularly in order to stay engaged with it when that happens.
So that otherwise, you still want to wake up every day and do it. You get excited about doing it because it changes and because it's different and because it's awesome. That's how it works for me anyway, as a manifesting generator.
I love that addition, and I love our talk today. I think we could talk for hours, but I have to be mindful on the time, and that means that we need to come to the end of our talk for today, at least. Maybe we can do a different talk about a different topic, but for today, I can imagine that when you're watching, that you learned a lot. Maybe you need to rewatch the episode to really take out all the gold nuggets that we shared here today. Which of course you can do if you subscribe to my channel. You will never miss another video again, and of course you can rewatch the video as often as possible. I would also really love it if you would like the video, share it with people that you know, so that other people can also benefit from it. And if you have any questions, please feel free to comment below the video so that either me or Tami can respond to your questions. That would be amazing. And I can also imagine that you might want to know, how can I reach Tami? Where can I find her? And that document that she was talking about also sounds very interesting. So how can people reach you best, Tami? Where can they find you?
So I hang out on Facebook mostly. So you can find me at Tami LoPresti, Numerologist, on Facebook, or you can go to my website, which is TamiLoPresti.com. And you can find all of my offers and everything that I do there.
Perfect.
And if anyone that's watching this books a reading, they'll also get a free digital reading included. So if you end up deciding that you want a reading, you'll get the free digital one to accompany it, which is just like, it's a beautiful, it's like a beautiful PDF that you can print out and you can use. And it just like says everything. It doesn't say everything I'm going to tell you, but it says most of the things, so that it'll be a nice like refresher after your reading. So
I love it. So if you listen to our talk today and you think, oh, I want to know what my life path is and what my numbers tell me about the shitty relationships that I've been having, or when I'm finally going to meet the man or woman of my dreams, or any type of other question you might have, then I'll make sure to include all the links below the show so that you can contact Tami. And as she stated, if you book a reading with her today, you're going to get a free digital copy of your reading so that you can read it over and over and over again and really make the knowledge yours.
Yes. Thank you. I also offer relationship readings. So like you can take your numbers alongside either your partner or your potential partners, and I can tell you how you fit together and, make, how it works and what you need and what they need and how to meet each other in the middle and things like that. Or like if it's potential, I can tell you which one is the best one to pick, so
Very,
like
very interesting.
yeah,
So
fun
you
stuff.
heard it. If you are pining after someone and you want to know if that makes sense.
Yes, I will tell you if he's gonna cheat on you.
Exactly. Or if you are dating multiple guys or have your eye on multiple guys and you're kind of confused of which one to pursue, or women, of course, can also be women,
Of
then
course.
Tami is your girl.
Yes, and that is really effective. My friends all call me every time they're dating someone new.
I
So,
can imagine. Next time I will hit you up as well.
yes, absolutely. That's my favorite thing to do. So,
Awesome. Well, I thank
all
you
right.
so much for being here, Tami. I
you.
really enjoyed our talk. I hope you guys also really enjoyed our talk. And I'll talk to you again in the next episode of HSP TV. And for today, I wish you an amazing rest of your day or evening, depending on where you are and when you're watching this. And I hope to inspire you with my next episode. Thank you for watching and thank you for being here.